Business is War, episode number 1. My name is Elliot Foreman, and this is my co-host and my partner, my analyst, Roland Charles Cager Jr. Can I say Junior?
You can say Junior, yes.
All right. And we are here today on our first podcast episode where we talk about everything business is war and how we got to this point to where we have a printed, published book right here in front of us talking about everything that is the embodiment of myself and my work. So, Roland, thank you for being here.
Well, one, thank you for having me on your first episode. This is my first time doing a podcast, so I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to also have my first podcast episode. So let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
Mr. Elliot Foreman, who is Elliot Foreman?
I believe if you can answer that question in one sentence, then you haven't done anything with your life. You know, maybe one word can probably describe you, like a lover or a love or a person of intellect, brilliance or whatever. Maybe you can do one word descriptions, but if I try to put it in a sentence and I can come up with one sentence, then I probably didn't do much with my time. But I am a New Orleans native, small business entrepreneur, architect, all the things. But you know what? I'm just Elliot, you know?
So there's layers.
For sure. There's layers. It's complicated. It's easy. And I'm still growing. I'm still trying to work on myself.
Do you have a favorite layer?
No, because the younger Elliot is not the older Elliot. It's not the middle-aged Elliot. It's not Elliot the father. It's not Elliot the son. It's just, I'm still evolving. I got a lot of work to do.
That's fair enough. That sounds like a whole podcast episode by itself.
Yes, it probably is, maybe.
So let's move on and start at the beginning.
Okay.
Where were you born?
New Orleans, Louisiana, 1975, Charity Hospital. Charity is the heartbeat of New Orleans. It's where most things happened. It was our central point. It's where I was born at, to a single mom with a dad that was kind of sort of in and out. And, you know, that's the reason I am who I am today, is because of how I got here.
So speaking of your mom, your parents, let's do a little dive into your background.
Okay.
Childhood, family, earliest memory?
I feel like we left Charity Hospital and moved downtown New Orleans, you know, not exactly in the suburbs, but, you know, we were okay. We had a house, you know, we were on a shot. You know what a shotgun is?
I grew up in a shotgun.
A shotgun is like one house that if you shot a shotgun in the front door, everybody dies, because there's like no segregated walls, and it's just like a straight back type of thing. And that's a New Orleans French, Spanish kind of inquisitional whatever situation. But we moved downtown. My mom had already had an older brother from me named Charles, and it was just the two of us. And my dad, like I said, he was in and out. And then, you know, my earliest memories are that we struggled a lot, you know, financially, in every possible way, not having the direction and the protection of a real man in the house.
So speaking of earliest memories, financially, do you have an earliest memory of a first job or a favorite job?
I think my first job was a paper route. I used to literally, we moved to Seattle once my mom married. I was probably 10. She married a military man, and we moved to Seattle, Washington, you know, a little bitty island called Oak Harbor, where a military base was, and it was freezing cold, and it was depressing. It looked like London fog. It was gray all the doggone time.
I'm familiar with the military life. I get it.
And so my first job was, I got a paper route. And I really got hustled into getting the paper route because, you know, people used to literally put papers on a big satchel and put them on the front of handlebars of a bike and ride a bike around and throw newspapers. And you did that every single day to certain houses on your paper route. And then at the end of the month, you would go and collect your money. So I had that entrepreneur thing going on early on. And it wasn't very rewarding. But when I got paid, I had to pay the publisher back for all the papers that I had been consigned. And then I turned around and I kept what was left. And so sometimes, let's say, for instance, if, I knocked on the door and it was at the end of the month, they paid me $20. Of that $20, I might have been able to pay 15 to the publisher and keep 5, you know, and I did that times, 200 houses or whatever that number was. And that was how I was able to have my first experience with work. And that was not an easy job.
Well, I have a fun little side question. When was the last time you actually saw or read a newspaper?
Boy, that's painful. But the answer is, man, that's what the digital thing did. It just made it easy to read an article on the phone versus actually having to get it out of a piece of paper on a news. But remember something, that's how news and information traveled back then.
Yeah.
Today, I don't have, the option to read a newspaper because, I mean, I don't even know if they deliver them right now. And most newspaper periodicals went out of business except for the big boys, the Seattle Times, Washington Times, LA Times, New York Times. They're still hanging on by a thread, but that's because they were able to sell digital subscriptions.
Well, speaking of your earliest memories and like your earliest job and the layers that are Elliot Foreman, can you describe or get into like what drives you as a person?
I'm still afraid that I'm going to be poor. And I can say that clearly because it's something that I think about on a regular basis. I've been able to financially multiply my life and do things that I probably never would have been able to do if I were the 10-year-old kid, back then, I wouldn't recognize myself right now because I'm a long way away from my greatest dreams. But I still get up every day concerned about my financial health, concerned about my stability and the stability that I provide for so many people that work for me. And so it drives me. It's something that I have an unlimited amount of energy when it comes to it. I'm never tired.
That sounds like a gift.
It's a gift and a curse. I'm never tired. I'm never frustrated. I'm never broke. I'm never content. I'm always going to have my foot on the gas trying to do more because again, remember we talked about time. I know how precious time is.
Extremely.
And so if you die and all you did was have fun with your life, was it even a life worth living? If you die and your existence ceases right then and there, then did you leave enough of a footprint of you having been on this earth? And that's something I'm struggling with.
Well, that's honestly very deep. And to piggyback off of that thought, what would be your best career advice coming from that perspective you have of that drive and energy and strength you have? What would be your best career advice?
So I wrote this book called Business is War. Obviously, we know that, but
I'm sorry, what's the name of the book again?
Business is War. Okay. Available on Amazon right now. So listen, the biggest piece of career advice that I do give people is to master your craft. It means if you're a tailor, if you're a barber, if you're a landscaper, if you're a videographer, if you're a writer, if you're a singer, a painter, it doesn't matter what it is. You laser focus on your skill, your talent, your gift, and the world will make room for you because of your gift. People wanted to be around Mike Tyson because he had a gift. He had already done the work. He was in the mountains running in the snow. Mm-hmm. People wanted to be around Miles Davis because when he played, they could hear magic. People wanted to be around Michael Jackson because when he danced, the same way that he had done for years, people wanted to be around him and his gifts made room for him. And so the career advice I would say is put in the 10,000 hours, get in the gym and shoot the shots, put in the reps, master your craft. It is going to find you and help you move your life forward.
That sounds like that could be a whole nother episode in itself. But let's just keep moving forward.
Okay.
Let's pivot.
Okay.
Into tell us everything you know, if you could summarize quickly everything you know about boxing.
Somewhere around 17, I discovered boxing because I was completely infatuated with Mike Tyson. He was my hero. I wanted to be like him because growing up with a single mom before my military dad came in the picture, I wasn't exactly this hard kid that, we didn't grow up in the hood, but we were definitely not rich. Mm-hmm. And I didn't grow up with a dad that was, just constantly fussing at me about, going to play basketball or football or putting me in sports and things of that nature. And so as a result, I was more of a peaceful person. And you taught me that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot to me today because I understand that now.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time so everybody can receive that? I need for everybody to hear that again.
So it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And so for me, that's who I am. I'm a warrior in a garden, but I'm a self-developed warrior because I wasn't always a fighter. And boxing became a safe space for me. I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to throw punches, see punches, understand timing, to understand athleticism, poise and patience and discipline. rhythm, those things, the average man walking around today doesn't know the first thing about it. And it's one of the reasons why I am so disciplined, because I mastered what I put in my mouth. I mastered what I put in my body. I mastered going to sleep on time early and early often so that I could be well rested, because my life was dedicated to training for a fight. Whether that fight came or it didn't, I was always prepared for it. And so I understand boxing as, and as I describe in the book, it's the pinnacle of operating in pain. It's at a deficit. And so it means everything to me. I still have a sweet spot in my heart. I did everything I could to try to be a successful fighter, but my career never panned out the way that I wanted it to. And maybe that's probably for the best, you know?
Again, that is a lot of content, and we can do a deep dive into how much boxing can be a vehicle, tools,
Yeah.
all those things, helpful.
A safe space.
It's a ton. It is a ton of things that people don't realize, because they see what people see on TV and they get an idea, but they don't really understand beneath the surface. There's so much content there. So
Let me say something else.
Yeah.
The average person watching a football game and the quarterback throws an interception, they call him garbage. But that same person couldn't even wear the pads on the field, and let alone see over a 6'5" lineman to throw a pass accurately or even remotely in the right direction, with the linebacker trying to tear their head off. And
rhythm, back to that rhythm conversation.
yeah. And so the reason I say that is that, you know, boxing is such a unique environment. It's a universe of morbid operation. It is not a happy, healthy space. If you did it recreationally, great. But the moment you try to turn it into a place to make money, to live your dreams through it, it becomes a very suffocating thing. And I'm just saying, everybody don't know nothing about it, and they be hating on people that do sports professionally, but they can't even run around the corner.
And to piggyback off of that, let's just keep moving forward to piggyback off of that. What would be your best life advice or secret to success coming from your experience with boxing and business and everything you've experienced thus far?
I saw an Instagram reel where this woman was on her driveway, and the baby stroller, she turned around and the baby stroller got away from her, and she was so obese, which is the proper way to say that, and so out of shape that she could not even run down the driveway to stop the stroller with her baby in it from going into the street and the cars coming and trying to do some damage, right? And so, number one, your body is a vehicle. It does more than take you to the bathroom and you lay down in the bed. Your body is how you move around this earth.
It's how you experience life.
It's how you experience life. It's your vehicle. And if you've not mastered your vehicle that you've been in all the days of your life, then what does that say about you? And so for me, when I started to pick my athleticism up to another level, to be in the best shape, my lungs breathing beautifully, my mind operating very sharp, having control of my faculties and my hand-eye foot coordination, my movements, being able to wear clothes and to move around all day long. You know how many people get tired by lunchtime because they just are out of shape? You know how many people can't make
stairs.
Exactly.
Just
Just movement,
Yeah.
you know? And there are people that sit down all day long and whose heart rate don't elevate whatsoever. And so just imagine if something bad happened to you.